So, the first week was going pretty well. Esther was getting accustomed to the school schedule. Things in the school dramatically changed because of the guaranteed scholarships. Thursday night, Esther Day and their girlfriends, they went to the WOW event, World Organization of Wrestlers. Enjoyed that immensely. And Esther understood it to be of more entertainment value than of serious athletic capabilities. But she enjoyed it too. As they left, after listening to the Black Gothic band, they ran into Mary M. from where Aunt Brandy worked at St. Peter's nursing home. And Esther quickly said hi to her, and she could tell Mary didn't like sharing the fact that she was a big fan of the WOW. And so Esther put her at ease and said, "We can keep this as our secret." And Mary felt good about that. Friday morning, Aunt Brandy woke up as usual. The apartment smelled fantastic. Breakfast was ready. She had gotten into the habit of going to the restroom quickly and then coming out. And Esther would meet her halfway with the Jamaican coffee, and they'd discuss how great the coffee was. And Esther would remind her, it's from Jamaica, the best place for coffee. And they had a fantastic breakfast, one that Esther said, her father had said that as young teenagers, he and his sister Brandy enjoyed very much. It involved grits. They both loved grits. And so Esther had made some special grits, and along with bacon and some scrambled eggs and some buttered toast. And the toast was actually made with fresh baked bread, which was really delicious. So Esther reminded Aunt Brandy that her sister was going to stay over tonight, Friday night, and that she was excited to introduce Day to Aunt Brandy and knew that they would get along. Aunt Brandy agreed. She says, anybody that you value as a friend, I'm sure I'm going to like. And so Brandy took off for work. Esther went to school on her motorcycle as usual. In the parking lot, John and his two buddies were there waiting for her, and they all greeted each other as usual, went on inside, and after they had entered the foyer and said, have a great day to each other, Esther was walking down the hallway, and some young Chinese men, students, were following her. And John wondered, what the heck's this about? And so he followed the Chinese students that were following Esther. And down at Esther's locker, they approached her, and he overheard the Chinese student talking to Esther in Chinese. Well, what it was about was he had heard Esther had a beautiful dragon tattoo on her back, and he told her that he was going to look at it, he and his friends. There's nothing she could do about it. And that his good friend Z was going to hold her while they looked. And Esther spoke to him. And all this was said in Chinese. And the student's name was Yu Pei. And Esther said to him that this wasn't a good thing, that it would hurt his future in the subjects that he chose to participate in, and that it would hurt Z chances too, because she knew that he wanted to become a teacher someday. And it didn't faze you at all. And so Esther said, well, I believe if you let me talk to Z, he won't try to hold me so that you can look at my dragon. And you laughed at that thought. He said, Z does anything and everything I ask him to. I said, well, you give me a chance to talk to him. And if he does not hold me, then I get one request from you. And you chuckled. Said, all right, fine. Esther said, but you got to let me talk to him first. So Esther walked up to this 6'2", very tall Chinese young man and started talking to him in Chinese. And she said to him, my name is Ester Saint. I was born in China. And you are Zibao, and you were born in China. And your parents came here believing that there is going to be a better life for them in this country. But their parents would not come. And your dad's mom and dad stayed behind. Esther explained to him, my father was in the military, and he was asked to find some terrorists that were in the mountains of China that were attacking villages. He said, one day I was with my dad, and we approached a village where nearly everybody had been killed, and I found this old lady. And she looked at me and said, you are much more beautiful than I had even seen you in my dreams. She said, "Please hold my hand." And it was like she had expected me. She was dying. She had been shot. And I found out later that her name was Chin. And at that point, Z became more alert because this was his grandmother's name. And Esther said, she asked me that after her death, I would have her ability to see things in the future that will happen. And she said, all she wanted from me was when I see her grandson to tell him that I love him more than anything. And so Esther again started to speak in Chinese and looking straight into Z's eyes. She said the words of her grandmother. Z, I love you more than anything. And at that point, Z had dropped to his knees. Looking up at Esther, he saw his grandmother and felt her hand in his. Then Z asked Esther for forgiveness. He said, I apologize for my behavior. I was about to shame my family for no good reason. Please forgive me. He stood up and he looked at his friends and said, Esther is my friend. Nobody is ever to touch her. And they all understood this. Esther said to Z, to be able to fulfill the wish of your grandmother halfway across the world is a wonderful thing. And I'm amazed that she knew that this could be done. At that point, the 6-minute whistle blew and everybody had to hurry up and scamper off to the next class. Esther slammed her locker shut, and Yu Pei, the obstinate student that was going to look at her dragon, said, all right. He was shocked that Esther had managed to talk Z out of holding her so that they could see the dragon. And he said, what is your wish? And Esther said, well, my uncle tells me this morning business is very good at his restaurant, and he's going to need additional busboys and dishwashers. So I want you and your friends for 1 month to work for him. He pays better than minimum wage and offers free meals. And Esther said, and I believe after a month, you'll probably want to stay there and continue. And so Yu Pei said, all right, fine. Who is your uncle? And where is this restaurant? Esther said proudly, Ten Cuisine. My uncle owns this restaurant. And he is looking for additional help. At that point, Yu Pei said, oh my gosh, the Ten Cuisine restaurant is the pride of the Chinese community. Anyone would be thrilled to work there. And at that point he said, Ester Saint, I too apologize for my behavior. I came at you with force, and you met me with softness and friendliness. I will be there. Esther told him, show up after school at 4 o'clock, and they will figure out schedules for everybody. And so at that point, everybody rushed off to their classes, and John, looking at a distance, didn't quite understand everything other than Esther had come out on top again in a confrontation without lifting a finger at all. Made him very proud. John was thinking of Esther as sort of a sister, and a somewhat adopted sister.